and life. Cyrus, we did it, and I'm in UK, and I keep doing these interviews for this deep dive into the crypto world, and every day I think, oh gosh, I didn't know that.
UP Hour Speciale Crypto è organizzato da UP Gang e Marco Montemagno in collaborazione con Leontech. Con una diversificata gamma di oltre 800 certificati quotati in Italia, Leontech offre soluzioni di investimento adatte ad ogni risparmiatore. Visita il sito certificati.leontech.com, esplora un universo di prodotti e seleziona quelli più adatti alle tue esigenze. Leontech, tecnologia ed innovazione al servizio del tuo portafoglio.
I didn't know that, about this project. I didn't. Every day I discover something new. And I wonder if you work in a project, you are inside and fintech, and you already know everything. Or every day you have this feeling in crypto world that you didn't even imagine that something was possible or a project surprised you.
It's just crazy, as you said. Monty, it's really, I'm the same thing. Every day you wake up and they're like, oh, this is a new project. There's new things happening. There's been so many different waves of how crypto has evolved. And, today we're, living, a year ago it was only about DeFi, then we got into now an NFT, then NFT went into metaverse. And you see these massive waves. And whenever you see these massive waves, well, there's so many projects that come, and some are probably going to change the world, and some are just copy pastes of other ones, and they're flipping from one blockchain to the other in order to, to make some cash. But it's true that it's really, really hard to follow. I don't personally, I don't manage to do it, but I'm definitely really curious, and it is a wonderland, right? So you jump in that rabbit hole, and if someone tells you I don't like crypto, it's just because the person didn't really get to understand it. It's like, I don't like life, right? There's so much things in life that are great. So crypto is pretty much the same thing.
And also there are so many sectors. The other day I was checking this project on decentralized GPU power rendering, and then another one on gaming. And there are so many sectors. So every sector basically have some application, and obviously all the wealth investment management, wealth creation is a very important sector. Let us understand SwissBorg. When did you start, first of all?
Yeah, we started really in 2016. And we did our ICO in 2017. So, and I got into crypto very late. I got into crypto in 2016, but it looks like, but it looks like.
Sorry. What were you doing before?
Mainly, I was a traditional finance guy. So I was working in different hedge funds and wealth management for a decade. And, long story short, I was saying, why would I be servicing the 1% when you could be servicing the 99%, right? And that's when I had my, my little moment. And on top is really when I think so people get into crypto, like maybe just, a little side of that is that, why do people get in crypto? Most time want to make $1 billion or, the 100x. Then you get to understand the products, right? Whatever it is, if it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. For me, it was Bitcoin. It was my dad's 70th birthday. He's based in Tehran, Iran. And my cousin told me, like, oh, well, if you really want to buy him a present, send me some Bitcoins and I'll buy him a bottle of whiskey. And back then, long story short, I understood the product, right? And then eventually when you fall in love, it's like with a person too, right? Look at the eyes, the body, then you dance and you have that thing. And then at the end, when you fall really in love, is with the spirit. And I think the same goes with crypto, is with the philosophy. When you understand what you're doing by buying Bitcoin, it's supporting decentralization, is against central government, it's really exactly enables people to empower themselves to send their Bitcoins to whoever they want at any time of the day. And that's when you really get to deep dive into the love of what you're doing. And that's what, exactly why at SwissBorg today, these type of original gangsters, which we're not really. I mean, we're not Litecoin, we're not Ripple, we're not that old, right? We're from the generation of these ICOs of 2017. But it's true that, when I go in a room at a conference and there's so many projects, there's like few old guys like, no, it's not these projects. They look at us, it's like old school. You're like, yeah, but not really. And actually, when you think about it, it is, because there's so much new people that are coming to crypto, and a lot of people flip from project to project. Got a little bit more sad, but
and why is SwissBorg different than other projects or an exchange or platform that let you earn some yields on your stable coins or crypto assets?
I would say to the extent is that, well, we're definitely a real blockchain, company / decentralized autonomous organization. We're born from an ICO. I think so that makes the really cool thing out of it. I mean, there's other ones as well. I mean, Binance has done that as well. But I think so that's one of the thing. Then we really have this strong mission, which is to democratize wealth management by making it fun, fair, and community-centric. And I think so the community-centric part is really where people have that self-realization or self-actualization. We really try to empower a community, grow with our community. And I think so that's something what people like the most. And then in terms of product, and people knows that, when we're a meta exchange, we're just not an exchange, right? So if you go on SwissBorg, you want to deposit euros or GBP, Swiss francs, or whatever European currency, you could deposit it within a few seconds to a few hours and then buy crypto, but you're not buying crypto on just one exchange. What we're doing is that we put together a smart engine that enables you to connect to all the different exchanges that we have and then really provide best execution within just one click. So you would always essentially buy and sell at the best price. So that's one cool thing. And then for yielding, you have a lot of CeFi traditional guys that really have that trade finance application, which is that you stake your Bitcoin, then they lend it over to a centralized party and they get a yield, right? That's what most people do. So you do that with Galaxy Digital, with whatever different prime broker. We are always yielding into DeFi. So we're not in TradeFi, we're really in DeFi because if you don't use the technology is going to be useless. And that means that eventually your Bitcoin is going to be useless. So we have over $1.2 billion of our community's funds that are deposited into these different smart contracts. And that means that we're looking on a daily basis, what are the best platforms as lenders or decentralized exchange. Then essentially we put together an oracle that scans all the different yields and the different pools. And essentially then it starts putting into these different decentralized pools, and that's how it's done. It's done within one click. So people like that one click thing, which is not, you don't have to look at so much and just have to.
So basically, can we say is a sort of for people who are not familiar with, is a sort of aggregator and meta search engine in this case. So you go, I don't know, on Compound and other platforms and see, okay, who is giving the best yields, and then you invest automatically there and keep scanning that sort of.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, in some way, for buying and selling crypto from fiat to crypto, or to crypto to crypto, or to crypto to fiat, it's the sky scanner. It's finding you the best solution in the back end, but it's completely transparent. You see what you do. And for DeFi, it's pretty much the same thing. It's not yet complete. I mean, you could scan the blockchain to see where it goes, but we're not able to show that yet. But the idea is next year is exactly the same sky scanner, and then you see exactly where your funds are going on which different platforms and how it's rotating on a daily basis, because that's the problem about DeFi.
Yeah.
You always have to chase the next yield. Yeah.
So, Cyrus, last night I was at a dinner, a party for a birthday, and a friend of mine came to me and we started to talk, and Bitcoin came out, and he was really cross. Basically, he was really cross because he said, okay, first, Bitcoin, there is no value in Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. And the classic conversation that you have with someone that clearly never spent 10 seconds studying the sector.
Exactly.
But one thing, when we moved to investments and yields and so on, the first thing he said was, all right, the main problem is that if I go to Barclays or a traditional British bank, I feel very, very safe, which is, I mean, it's an opinion, okay? I respect the opinion. But if I go in this crypto world, who are all of this, DeFi, who can I call? I cannot call the customer, and so on, which is, I think, is a legit fear that I think a lot of investors have, and that's probably the reason why there is no mainstream adoption at the moment. So what would have been your answer to this friend of mine?
Yeah. Well, he has to realize that, every bank has a rating, right? And so far, we don't really have ratings in crypto. And that's the next step. So, I mean, we've been doing this internally. There's other people, that are looking at it. If you're going on Aave and you're staking on Aave, the risk that you have, but the reward as well, is very different than if you're going on, I don't know, PancakeSwap or Venus or ones that have maybe like MDEX or things like that really don't have like a same risk profile. And I think so that's what you really have to think. Again, it's always, what is the risk you're taking and why the reward is so high. And for now, there's no like clear, DeFi is still not regulated, right? So there's platforms such as us that really score this risk on a daily basis and have to make sure that, but the risk, how you score it, it's not based just on a counterparty risk that you look at balance sheets like you do with banks, right? There's so many different things, right? You could look at the team, you could look at the organization structure, but then you have to really deep dive into technical elements, which is that, okay, smart contract auditing, Oracle auditing, who they work out for feeding their prices.
What's Oracle auditing?
So, very often what happens is that you have these different wallets, right? And this is where you deposit, the different cryptos that you have into these different platforms. But then what is the engine that essentially making this logic, right, behind it? So the Oracle is really the one that starts, try looking at the auto market making pools. It really enables to see if you're selling one banana against one apple, and what essentially is that price information is provided. So you look at that Oracle that says, okay, one banana is worth 2 apples, and you want to make sure that that's done on real time. So then you could look if those prices are really real on CoinMarketCap or on different exchanges whatsoever. And you want to make sure there's no slippage there, or that if there's a new update of that apple versus that banana, you want to make sure that it's done as well on chain, right? And I think so today there's more and more great companies that are really working towards providing better information, better data sources, and all of that. So you want to look who are those counterparties, who they're working with. Then you want to see on which blockchain it is. Is it on Ethereum blockchain, or if it's on Binance Smart Chain, if it's on Polygon, if it's on Arbitrum. So all these different layer 2s of Ethereum, or something completely new. Is it on Solana? Is that the case? So long story short, for example, Solana, big fans. We don't have the resource yet for really doing the whole due diligence part, and as well integrate this into our systems. So we haven't done DeFi yet for our community members on Solana, because it's a new protocol, it's a new language, it's a new way of working. So I think so that's really how you can start looking into risk. Then obviously you have to, it's better to know these teams, because if you do know them, well, there is at least a phone that could connect to them. And last but not least, some platforms are getting regulated, and And when these platforms are getting regulated, you feel obviously more secure. But it's still really much the wild, wild west. There's no doubt that your friend, if he just wants to go at Barclay and get his yield of 0.2% on GBP and he's happy with it, tell him to try it out and give him like 1,000 quid maybe and let him with 1,000 quid. But until, if he's very risk averse, I don't actually, advise everyone to go on into DeFi. I do advise people who understand it and understand there's a risk. If the person doesn't want to take that risk,
what do you think is the risk? Because he was very scared also of cyber attacks, then he lose all of his money if a company got hacked. He said, all right, but a traditional bank, they are insured, or at least he feels just more the brand give it. If the paradox is this one, if Barclays would say, I give you the same offer, you give me the money and then I just move the money, I put it in DeFi for you, he would feel 100% safe, just because the brand give him confidence that that's legit.
Last Friday I was with a few banks in Switzerland, and their CEOs or the top management. And first, which was very interesting, is that they were like really knowledgeable. You guys were doing like personally DeFi. They were like on Uniswap and all of that. Yeah, that was quite crazy. I was like, whoa, this really shows that we're not too far from it. And we're talking about big CEOs of the biggest banks. So these guys had their MetaMask and all that. I was like, wow, this is quite insane to see that. And but long story short, it's not going to happen yet for their clients, because again, it's not a regulated piece, and why would the bank takes with from few billions to 100+ billions take a risk of a PR coup, which is that they lose, even if they lose like 10 million, which is nothing for them, it's still a very bad press, right? And then the regulators, anyway, it's going to be a big issue. So the question, which is that are these big banks and are they going to get in, and are we going to find a solution? Yes, we will. But what will be that solution? Well, that solution will be where maybe a cloud-based wallet like Fireblocks or other ones, Copper, all of these really cool MPC technology type of wallets that enable to transfer wallets from one to the other. We'll start doing, a big pool of like massive big banks that will start doing the lending thing together, right? And that's a little bit where like these instant SEPA happens in Europe. Like there's a pool of cash, of GBP, euros that you could send rapidly into this in a reserve, and that reserve could be taken from different banks. That is a little bit thing off chain, I think. So this will be how these big banks will start offering between them. I said that's more for their own P&L, and then going forward is how users could then start, doing things that are a little bit more getting better rates, because you are cutting some intermediaries. So that's maybe one way. The other way is if like Aave, and they've talked about this many times, Aave, so it's a great protocol that we've been using. They did an ICO like us, and it's really today the most trusted lending platform. They would do like an institutional, essentially, portal. Well, you have to do your KYC with your wallets, like that. If there's a permanent loss, well, then we'll see who took the funds and who goes off with these funds, and he or she, or sorry, the company that's behind that wallet will be then, trackable, traceable. So I think so that's it. But your friend is right. I mean, the website could be corrupted with cookies that eventually could trace into your wallet and get maybe access to some information. You could lose your private keys. Then there's impermanent losses. Impermanent losses happen often when, like, if that oracle is not well feeded by like Chainlink, which very often is the data price for sources. So if that apple is worth 2 bananas, but then for whatever reason, those bananas now are worth 2 apples, and you still have 1 apple for 2 bananas, that means that the apple is really overpriced. So what's going to happen? It's that most probably people will essentially enable to
Got it.
buy all those bananas out, and then, well, you lost pretty much all your money because you only have apples left. So that's a way where people sometimes have those economical hacks. And the last is that what happens that whatever blockchain, there's an update, it doesn't happen into the wallet system, and there's maybe a security or a backdoor that could happen where people could infiltrate themselves. But just to make things clear, there has been few hacks. Most of the big hacks we noticed, they always gave back because when you have so much money, it's just like people are like, okay, this is too much. It was fun to hack them, but let's
Right.
give it back.
Okay.
But there's small hacks that happened, and those ones, well, people just left the money.
How do you deal, Cyrus, with this uncertainty that is not only based on what you do? I mean, if I think about my startups, all right, worst case scenario is that they hack my website. Okay, I mean, we sell, I don't know, video courses or business books, abstracts. All right, it's not such a big deal. But when you have, like, I don't know, $1 billion investment or something like that, people are much more are paying attention, let's say that. So how do you deal with that?
As there's maybe Italian people listening, chi va piano va sano va lontano.
Yes.
And è la cosa più importante per il blockchain.
Wow. All right. I like it.
It's true. It's that, whatever you're scaling into crypto, take a step, look into it, put 1 foot in. So that means not your community, just yourself, right? Try to think about what's happening, and then say, okay, is this really worth it or not? Okay, I'm not too sure. Pass it on to someone else. And then this person could be looking at another angle. Okay, let's pass it to another one. And essentially that's what the team is about, right? So you look at the financial risk, the operational risk, the security risk on multiple different levels, the technical risk. You look at a lot of different aspects to it, and a lot of people have different competency at SwissBorg, and we will always do that same thing, which is that we could go into something new, but for that you need to do this extremely slowly and at a pace that you could control, and then you're making sure that you're always working with the right projects and the right technology. And yeah, that's what we've been doing since day one, and that's what we'll be continuing doing. And I think so you have to be very zen. If you're a bit too stressed, again, I don't recommend everyone yet to do yield farming by their own. I mean, I would never actually recommend anyone to do it, besides if you're really, you really love what you're doing, and you're chasing, more modest type of yields. If you're doing 100% yield, it means
Got
what
it.
it means.
Got it.
There's no free lunch.
Interesting. And by the way, I always remind people that this is not financial advice, yada, yada, yada. And so do be very, very careful with all of your money and investment, and study first. If Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, tomorrow morning is calling you and say, hey, Cyrus, it's Tim. And you say, oh, hello, Tim. How are you, buddy? And he say, look, I have $257 billion on our bank account doing nothing. I would love to put it in SwissBorg. The question is it only for personal investments, SwissBorg, so far, or also for companies that, following Michael Saylor advice, try to put some balance sheet to work for them?
Yeah, I think so. That's a great question. And the answer is that, well, 257 billion, that would represent 10% of all crypto assets. So that's like it's not unthinkable. But I mean, more for the question itself, we do have like corporate accounts where people have bought, are buying and selling crypto. We have some people that are doing even trade finance with USDC. So essentially, they're buying USDC and then doing whatever they need to do to buy, coconut and different things with USDC, which is cool. I think so. Buying Bitcoin, every company today should have, Bitcoin in their balance sheet. That doesn't make sense. However, now, do these big guys need to go into DeFi? It's very small. It's, we say that it's 100 billion market that are pledge of assets, but how many of these assets are actually counted multiple times? Because there's so many bridges and bridges and bridges and bridges. When you go from, convex to curve to curve to compound to Aave, there's a lot of different layers. So I don't know exactly what's the real number. Maybe it's 30 billion, maybe it's 50 billion, who knows? There's not yet the space for like the really big guns. It is just growing though. Just please remind people that 2 years ago with Aave and other friends, we had we're like maybe, and there was MakerDAO. So MakerDAO was probably the biggest first stable coin that was backed by Ethereum and a lot of different other assets. So, I mean, that was one of the biggest one. But besides that, in DeFi, there was not much. There was maybe 50 million, 100 million. And that has grown exponentially in the last 2 years. So it's going to do the same thing in the next years. So it's coming. So long story short, yes, it's going to happen. So Tim could probably start depositing 1 billion, 2 billion to start, and we'll probably be able to help them out. But then I think so in the upcoming years is going to be just easier and easier, where people could really, get exposure to crypto and start, getting nice yields on those different cryptos.
And for companies I would say in Switzerland, probably the laws and also the accounting, taxing part is more mature than, for instance, probably here in UK. I see if an LTD want to buy Bitcoin. I mean, well, good luck with that, because then you have to talk. The accountant say, well, but what do we do with this? Where is it? Is on an exchange, but then it's converted. But then, oh no, wait, capital gain, maybe not. So it is a headache. So I assume many companies say, well, wait, let's see when everything is easy. And so what's the situation in Switzerland? Also for you, like SwissBorg, I imagine you have a lot of crypto going around. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, Switzerland has been extremely good at adopting crypto in general. I think so. The idea of crypto is decentralized. Switzerland has been always decentralized. Switzerland has always been very pushing towards tech in general. So I think so that goes well with it. I think the direct democracy thing is something that you see a lot in referendums in the blockchain as well. So there's a lot of things that has common interest and common, I would say, ideology between crypto and Switzerland. Well, I know that next year I'm going to be paying my taxes in Bitcoin, which is super cool.
Oh, wow.
So,
all right.
yeah. The Canton of Zug, which I'm domiciled, is accepting crypto. So that I think so it's really cool. Then in terms of companies, yeah, I think so. It's it's not that easy, right? Like if back then we had their ICO, we were like super great. We raised $52 million, mainly in crypto, and no bank account wanted to, like no banks. They're like, the banks are like, oh my God, we saw what happened. Okay, we have to close our accounts. Like, whoa, we just need to pay our salaries out of you guys. They're like, nah. Now it's different. We're much bigger, regulated. But there's that's been and 4 or 5 years has passed. 4 years has passed. So things have evolved, but it's still not. It's a very risky business. Let's put it very clear. It's a risky business. However, it's a game changer. I think everyone should be part of something that's a game changer, and it's for good. It's for humanity. I think it's crypto, which is very different from other revolutionary, I would say, things. And it's much better than most countries, I would say, but we're still not at mass
the optimal scenario.
The optimal scenario. I guess I still don't go to the shopping center and I don't pay in USDC or in Euro T or in the CHFT next one. Or
got it. What are interesting trends that you see in crypto world at the moment?
I mean, 2016, 17 was my aha moment where I was like, oh, everything's going to be DeFi. Because my background was hedge funds. So, talk to Mona Lisa, which was has a project called Enzyme, and it's about decentralized funds, hedge funds, and all that. So that's really where we at SwissBorg thought it was extremely interesting, and I always been really thinking that DeFi is gonna be so cool, and it's became really interesting. So definitely a big space that I look at, and we try to see how it evolves. I think so. The governance models around that is very important, and I think so. This is where people should really interest themselves, because people like I'm just chasing 20% yield. It's interesting, but if you're staking your tokens at a project and you're actually using the product, but you're as well voting on the governance and all that things, that's where my personal interest is that governance aspect. If not, obviously the whole NFT craze. I like NFTs. I just think that NFTs should have a real use case, right? So one of the use cases we talked about recently was, imagine you start doing a yield, right? And you're depositing USDC and you're getting, let's say, 10%, and you deposit $1,000 or $10,000. So at the end of the year, you get $1,000. $1,000 at the end of the year. Instead of getting that $1,000, why not? You would actually start planting trees. And let's say a trees cost like $100.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, at the end of the year, you actually have planted 10 trees. Instead of getting that yield, you get those 10 trees. And what you get in opposite is an NFT that says that you actually have 10 trees in this park, right?
Love it.
So now what it is that this is getting really interesting, because you're yielding with an impact on Earth. You're getting this NF tree, right? And this NF tree, essentially, you could keep it and you could show off like most NFTs. Like today, a lot of NFTs like, hey, look, I'm Twitter, I have this cool face and I bought that whatever something. Or it could be a certificate saying that you're not only showing off, you're actually providing value to an ecosystem, which is the planet, which is important.
Yeah.
And that NFT now is super valuable because you're actually the owner of those 10 trees. And that you could maybe then yield on another platform, or you just could sell to someone, because the next party that is organized by SwissBorg is that you have to have, at least one tree to get in. And you're starting to give a lot of value to what you're doing. And I think so that's definitely where NFTs for me could have a huge play. Same with video games and engine, how our Axie Infinity, how these different NFTs are solving problems for gaming players. That's where I'm definitely extremely interesting, which I'm a little bit less, and I should maybe not say this, it's metaverse. I'm not a massive fan. I just want to be clear. I'm not a massive fan because I haven't seen any use case that is interesting. Most games that I played really are not at the level which I think that mass adoption could happen. And even the VR thing with Mark, to be honest, I was at Billie Eilish concert 2 weeks ago. We were like 100 people watching with that VR set. I'd stay there for like 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, for only 100 people, that doesn't look good. I mean, on SwissBorg, shows, or your show, there's even like 1,000 more than that, which shows that we're still not. It's a bit early, I say, for metaverse, I believe.
Got it. I watched the interview the other day with Mark Zuckerberg. He said 3 to 5 years with these augmented reality, glasses and things. So he predict like 3 to 5 years for a bigger adoption. We'll see. I have no idea. By the way, NFTs. I'm really into NFTs, and I really like the Gary V project, VeeFriends, where basically he's selling a utility NFT apart from the art, but you get access to something, to an experience, to an event, to play table tennis with him or something like that. And I think that's interesting because there is value there, and it's not only art, because I mean, how many real artists are there in the world? I mean, not so many. Now everyone is an artist, but how many real artists are there? So I think this is really interesting, probably.
Yeah, that I strongly believe, and the other problem is that, you know, what people don't realize is that they say that an NFT gives you the ownership of this digital art, but who gives it really? I mean, some you could probably go back, and if it's like a really big thing, you say, okay, it's been minted by this wallet. This wallet, we all acknowledge that this wallet eventually was the right person. But, you know, there's still no, you know, there's no auctions that are going to say that this is the real NFT and all of that. So, yeah, there's still a few things to evolve there. But again, you know, I'm very confident that NFTs, you know, will give you a lot of cool things. And what I always say in blockchain, it's a book, and that book will be read by your grandchildren. So that'll be where you bought, where you sold, where you staked, where you yield, where you bought digital art, and they will see that digital art. So if you start buying porn, that means your great
will be there.
We'll see. They'll be like, oh, okay, hey, grandfather was actually a naughty guy.
To close this conversation, very interesting, Cyrus. I was curious about wealth management in general. Let's say democratization of wealth management, because until this moment, if you really want to get some pros to manage your wealth, you need wealth, first of all. So you need a certain amount of money that you go to, I don't know, the big banks or some great investors. So you go to Ray Dalio if you have the opportunity, or Paul Tudor Jones, and they say, all right, we'll invest your money and you'll make a lot of money because we know how to do it. We have our things. No one knows what is those things, but they know exactly what to do. But the 99% of people don't have access to that. So you say, all right, I invest in, I don't know, an index fund, stocks, crypto. I mean, what can you do? How do you see that? Is this changing? Is still, I mean, the super wealthy have different, of course, like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger have a different access than my access to, you know, wealth tools. What's the situation there, having worked also in a traditional environment?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, definitely the wealth has been evolving a lot. And I would say the very more interesting part where I see is that the wealth accumulation that have happened in crypto is just extremely different. Ray Dalio got into Bitcoin when it was 25,000, right? So that means all the people that bought it before, they front run it. One of the smartest guy of hedge funds of all time, right? And that's where it's getting very exciting, is that a lot of, I mean, not everyone, but at least a few 100 million people got in extremely early. And now even the wealthy people at these big banks are still not into it. So you could essentially front run all of the guys that have been front running you since generations and generations and generations of generations. You know, we're talking about a 3-century generation that you could front run. So this is first the really interesting part. The second part of wealth is that even if these wealthy people will have access to crypto and all that, which I think so is very important, by the way. When we say democratizing wealth management by making fun, fair, community-centric, it doesn't mean we just want, you know, poor people to become wealthy. We want everyone to rather remain wealthy. We want people to become wealthy and to, you know, stay wealthy, right? That's very important. We're not discriminating rich people towards poor people. We just want everyone to get access to that. And I think that the wealth creation of the future is always going to change, right? Warren Buffett, which has been a great fund manager from the 70s, 80s, 90s to early 2000s, to be honest, sucked and started in 2008. He was still like, yeah, I want oil. That's oil, you know. I like oil. No, it's tech. my portfolio back then, it was 10 times better. Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla, Alibaba, all of these stocks for me were like, obviously, for me, because I was that generation, I was like, why would I buy, and von Shell stock and consumer staples and all of that. So this is the same thing was going for NFTs. A lot of NFTs and a lot of different value creation, which I'm like, sometimes like, okay, this doesn't feel, or like Shiba, right? Shiba is a very good one where I'm like, well, Shiba, the technology sucks, but no, it's the voice of the people. It's the voice of the youngsters that believe that dogs are something that are super cool, that finance is super boring. So let's put a dog more important than any other financial asset. And I believe there's a lot of value into Shiba. There's a lot of value into Dodge, which I believe back then just as a joke. Fortunately, I sold them a year ago, which was very bad. It was a really bad investment decision. I had a big bag there. But and that's what is very interesting. And I think so at SwissBorg, what we're trying to do is you're right. A lot of people will maybe like to do it yourself, and we have this more culture more to do it yourself. It feels better. But then you need some index funds and things like that, and just need a click, and you say, okay, I like this theme, I'll let it play. So that's exactly what we're building at SwissBorg is thematics, where people will be able to buy a basket of different assets, and there'll be sensory balancing. So if you believe in green energy, we'll pick like only tokens that have a mission to accelerate green energy, and it'll be like proof of stake protocols and things like that. And that will directly buy it, and it will be rebalancing it within your own wallet. So it's not a fund; it's more like copy trading or just helping to buy a basket and then rebalancing within your own wallet. So that's what we've been designing for already 3 years. Super hard to make it happen. But I think so early next year, hopefully we'll get it done.
Well, what do you think about this Bitcoin ETF, future ETF, spot ETF? Can you help us to understand, why not to buy? Why should you buy an ETF? Why don't you just buy directly Bitcoin? Of course, some companies or they maybe cannot buy directly Bitcoin if they are public companies, or how does it work?
Yeah, everyone should buy Bitcoin directly because you could use it and you could be master of the keys, or not. Just leave it on one of these very great exchanges such as SwissBorg, Coinbase, or Kraken, and things that where you think it's safe, right? And if you can do that and you don't want to do it for whatever reason, so the last ETF that has been approved is Bitcoin futures, which is great. I think this is a massive good news for the adoption again of more institutional players coming in through that gateway. However, it's not buying any physical Bitcoins, so it's good, but it's really again a very more interesting, I would say, investment for speculation. Hopefully we'll have an ETF soonish. I don't know exactly. Some people are planning this on just before Christmas. If it happens, we're going to have a very great Christmas, that's for sure. If it doesn't happen this year, it eventually will happen. It's been now 5 years. People are pushing rather Grayscale or one of these big boys. They'll eventually have it, and I think so. It's good for a lot of institutional people that don't have the capacity or to have these wallets, or just don't have, I would say the balls to go into crypto.
Very good. Cyrus, was really, really interesting to have this chat with you. And I'll see you soon. Hopefully in Italy, Switzerland, or UK. Somewhere we'll meet.
Well, it'd be great. Really, hopefully to meet in real. And thank you so much for the show, for all the listeners. Please check us out on Twitter or on Instagram or on our website. And please, download our wallet. We'll have a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Bye, Sarah.